Yeah, I mean, it goes into manipulation and all kinds of other like shadow things that can come from that behavior. Um, a need
Unless
to
there's another
control,
safe word
whatever.
decided on.
What's that?
Unless there's another safe word decided on.
Well, yeah,
You know.
this is true. It's all part of the consent puzzle. Um, yeah, with those things, um, kind of wrapping things up because I know it's probably pretty close to Eric's bedtime, even though it's a weekend.
Yeah, he just got out of the shower. He'll
Okay.
eventually he'll eventually get clothes on. Be ready for bed.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that it's it's definitely not pretty out there. I think that a good percentage of the people who are single, and by that I mean not married and not in committed relationships, don't have the tools or the groundwork started with such that they have healthy communication skills where they can communicate what they want or what they're looking for in a non-judgmental, non-attacking, very like open and inviting and like compassionate but also enthusiastic way. I'm really, really into Legos. Legos are one of my favorite things ever in the world, and I really enjoy Legos. I have no problem with Legos. I hope that when it comes down to a choice between Legos and me, that this person would choose me a good percentage of the time, but I value in a partner that kind of passion.
Hmm.
Something that they are into, whether it's exercise or nutrition or any number of other things, that they can just nerd out and be passionate about. And I can watch them just be passionate about it. It's
The
like
the
when I'm
Legos
talking
thing
about
was a
construction or
joke.
any number of other things, and you're like, I love listening to you talk about it, but wah, 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 I got nothing.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's I'm here to listen. Yeah. Yeah, the Legos thing was definitely a joke, unless you have
Yeah.
not told me this entire time that you're into Legos.
No, I have probably purchased more than my fair share of Legos, but most of that is for David. He actually prefers the bigger
Mm.
blocks, not the little tiny ones. But just as a sort of a nerdy hobby kind of situation, because some people think that like playing video games or gaming online is, a lesser preferred hobby than others. And I think there are certain ways that that can translate into things that are unhealthy, but you're not going to know that just because they say I'm a professional gamer or I play a lot of video games or like anything along those lines. You're not going to know until you see what that actually means to them. So let's not, it's that like if they're communicating a preference to playing video games as one of their hobbies, what does that actually look like? Watch them play video games and see what that looks like, and then decide whether or not that's something that you want to do or not. And if you need their attention or want their attention and they can't break away from that when you need or want the attention that you're looking for as a partner, there's another statistical point you can use to figure out whether this is going to work for you or not. But
Mhm.
judging them for being into video games or dancing or slow pitch softball or chess or I don't know, pick another hobby you can think of that um
Yeah.
it's just because the hobbies don't align does not mean that there's incompatibility. I am not a big book reader. You are. I'm
Mhm.
glad that you are and that you consume knowledge in that way. I also find it incredibly hilarious that when you're listening to an audiobook, you like to listen to it at normal speed, and I will listen to it at 1.7 speed, so I get through that ding thing and I will you can attest to the fact that I absorb knowledge or
Yes.
information via hearing it significantly faster than most other
Yeah,
people.
I'm like processing on like so many layers that hearing it at normal speed allows my brain to do that. Like it's like It's like bing, 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 bing. I'm making all these connections. I am like integrating it as I listen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
you mentioned
integration
about
happened at the end.
communication. You mentioned about communication. I just wanna like I feel like anyone from like the people from my end who listen to this, I just want to give them a lot of credit because I feel like um the conversations I have with them, like there are so many people out there who do a lot of work to be good at, communications and relationship skills um and all of that stuff. Who will listen to the conversation we're having and be like, well, duh, of course. And so I just want to shout out to those people. Um, that a lot of the stuff we've talked about have come from places other than the people who are most likely watching this. And I'm really happy about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, there's definitely a group of people who could find value in what we've just kind of discussed and gone through. And um, hopefully if they need some extra advice or they'd like to, let's say, dive into some of these ideas or topics more, or perhaps even hire you as a coach because you're wonderful at this kind of thing. They can message you, I'm sure, on Facebook, and get some extra helpful advice, because I believe wholeheartedly that one of the reasons that we connected the way we did was through those kinds of conversations. I have found so much value in just a general conversation outside of a coaching container or anything along those lines, where you have brought so many different frames of reference into mine that blended and integrated so well that it was just easy to continue evolving as a human being through that process. And the idea of chaos to clarity may not make sense to some people, but that's kind of the bread and butter of what that means. Like, you can bring someone this scattered idea of why they're struggling with dating, why they feel like they can't find the right match, or that they're all creeps, or nobody's respecting my boundaries, or like any number of these other things. And through two, three, four conversations, have 73 epiphanies if they're in the right frame of mind in doing the work and trying to figure out exactly where things could be going wrong.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Um, and I think when it comes to dating, a lot of times the holistic resilience side ends up being extremely relevant because a lot of the a lot of the difficulties with dating happen when we're dating out of fear. And holistic resilience is one of the ways we strengthen ourselves in many ways, but the result of that strength is that we don't feel scared and vulnerable. And, like I mentioned, not being afraid of getting hurt. Like, what are you going to do that I can't take? I can handle it. And because I can handle it doesn't mean I'm a masochist, but it means that I'm willing to take the risks that are necessary to find and build a quality relationship, right? Like if I was dating out of fear, we would not have connected. Think about it, random guy on the internet keeps keeps texting me. What does he want? That's creepy, or like I wouldn't have invited you to New York, you know, um if I were afraid, like there are so many things to be afraid of in that situation.
Hmm.
I felt like, we had been talking at that time for like 10 months. And so I saw, like, I helped you plan the road trip with the boys over the holidays, and I saw you act, so I knew you were serious. I saw the pictures from it, you know? I knew you were serious about this, and so I really wanted to. Huh?
Forget about this year's surprise. This time I basically did the whole thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, Eric's helping with this year's surprise. It's so amazing. But you know, like I wouldn't have invited you to New York. And when you came to New York, I wouldn't have gone all out in planning a great weekend for us. Because I'm like, I'm not gonna invest that much. He's probably, you know, like that was vulnerable. It was vulnerable to put together something like that, knowing that you could get here and it could turn out that we weren't a match at all. And meanwhile, I had put all that effort in and, you know, like planned it and bought tickets and all that stuff, you know? So like there was risk involved and I could have gotten burned at any time. I could have gotten hurt. It could have not worked at any point in time. And then when we did start having feelings, like it was another level of vulnerability because like given our situation, we live so far apart, we have co-parents in our respective areas. It's like what does that mean? How is it going to come together? That's a, like you said, it's a pretty tall order to figure out how to make that work in a way that's ethical and good for our families. And you know, it's it wouldn't have happened. We couldn't have this. I couldn't be here if I didn't know that I could take it if things go wrong at any moment, you know?
Yeah.
And real love requires that kind of risk and vulnerability. Not always in this exact manner, right? I'm not saying everyone should take the type of risk that I chose to take, but even just regular dating requires being vulnerable and opening up and getting hurt. Like you will get hurt. You will absolutely get hurt. I've gotten hurt. I've felt like crap. I've gotten rejected. Um, and if I were afraid of that happening, if I made all my decisions around trying to prevent that from happening, I wouldn't have opened myself up for some of the most amazing experiences I had, you know, like the wonderful dating experiences I had with people who ended up not being the right match, but we had beautiful experiences and connections while they lasted, and ultimately meeting you.
Yeah, I mean, everything that we had up until last November was all just a combined wonderful experience that I hope, looking back on everything, I think we grew a lot as individuals and it wasn't specifically about trying to build a foundation for a future specifically, like that's part of it. But it was a natural byproduct of just walking into this knowing that either one of us could get hurt, either one of us could pull the plug at any particular moment until, we got to a point where it was like, well, there's more here than we're pretending isn't, so we should just call it what it is. But like you were talking about, we expressed to each other many times that um we wanted the kind of deep love that was just completely unbreakable. And by the time both of us are ready to leave this earth, that it's more painful than anything that we have ever experienced before because we built that love, that level of devotion to one another over the rest of our lifetime. And if that's something that you're looking for, then you need to align yourself with a person who is also looking for that. Otherwise, you are setting yourself up for failure. That expectation needs to be communicated, and if you're looking for something that's that deep, then they need to understand because just like with any other loving relationship, the act of love in that frame, not with like children specifically, but in a romantic relationship, is you're giving someone a detonator to a bomb right next to your heart. if it doesn't last for the rest of your lives, that bomb is going to go off.
And even if it does last for the rest of your lives, that bomb is going to go off for one of you most likely.
Yeah.
Think about it. You know, what are the chances how many couples die at the same time?
Yeah,
You know?
not not close enough. Like I had a great grandfather who passed about 6 months after his wife did, and I was like 8 at the time. But
Mm.
he was absolutely miserable for 6 months.
Statistically, there's like a very high percentage of men who pass within a year of losing their wives, and wives tend to statistically last for many years afterwards more often. And watching my grandmothers become widows has been so painful. And I'm just watching. Imagine for them.
Yeah, but that's what people like us sign up for when you're a hopeless romantic. It's
Exactly. So pain, it's gonna happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not ready for the pain, if you don't think you can handle it, whatever, don't even walk out there. Like figure out what your hobbies are, focus on yourself, do what makes you happy without a relationship, without looking for anything. Maybe the right person will come up and it will just click for you, but if you're not capable of handling the pain that will come from the eventual rejection on, whatever level and whatever time frame, focus on yourself and stay out of that because you're going to project it into your dating life regardless of how much you try to guard yourself or like anything else or protect your heart. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And if you're putting so much energy into protecting yourself, then that takes energy away from loving and caring for and investing in your partner and your relationship.
Yeah. Hopefully people don't feel like all men and or in this case all women are toxic or bad or
Oh God,
whatever.
definitely not. Definitely not. Like, or and put it another way,
Hurt,
all of us
yes.
have our toxic moments. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we're all toxic individuals. And here's one, if you can't if you can't identify your toxic tendencies and you're not actively working on them, then that's probably going to set you up for some rough relationship experiences because it's very easy to be blind to our own tendencies or make excuses for them. Like, oh, well, I'm generally a good person, but this was an extenuating circumstance. This wasn't my normal self. Um,
Or they have the ego where they don't accept or believe that it's as bad as it is or that it doesn't need to be worked on because it only happens now and then.
yeah, we all tend to overvalue our strengths and undervalue our weaknesses. That's like a normal human bias. We value and being aware of that, um, like none of us is exempt from being toxic, and we can put in all the work. At some point, there is an amount of pressure where it will come out.
Yeah.
Um, hopefully not to the extreme, hopefully not very often. But
Hopefully
yeah,
not
so
not threatening anyone's safety or anything along those lines, but yeah,
yeah.
everybody
And it's not an
everybody has their
excuse.
toxic traits no matter who you are, no matter what situation you found yourself in the past or are looking to get into the future. There is something that probably needs to be worked on. And if you find yourself thinking that it's always their fault, you should probably look in the mirror. It's not
Yeah.
always someone else's fault. There's always a way or a situation that, things weren't communicated or whatever that led to those things happening that it's really hard to take credit for. Like, it does not feel good to take credit for those things sometimes, but that doesn't mean
It's
that it
not.
isn't needed, because then you can't find the one down the road because you will tank it. You'll
Mhm.
absolutely dumpster fire that thing.
Absolutely. Eric, you want to tell them about the surprise?
What surprise?
The boys aren't there. And the boys
They're not there, right? They're not in the
Not,
room with you?
not in the room, no.
Will they? Is it a possibility for them to hear you?
Probably not. If you go quickly.
Okay. It is an Amtrak adventure to Washington, D.C.
So we're gonna fly to New York and then take an Amtrak to Washington, D.C., and then tour D.C. for about a week before we come back.
In New
Kind of
York.
similarly to our adventure to Williamsburg, Virginia last year.
Yeah. And Eric has been writing the book that Santa's gonna leave under the tree that reveals the trip. And he's
Yep,
done a really fantastic job.
he has. And
How many?
I still owe you some pictures.
Yes, yes, definitely we need pictures of the elves planning the trip.
Yes.
We already have pictures, remember?
Yeah, but we needed some more. Remember? We needed
You'll have
some
to
more.
tell me what pictures you want so I can set them up. But I think
Okay.
What?
it's getting close to
That's
bedtime over
enough.
here too. So
Alrighty.
Don't you think
hopefully,
that's enough?
I'm sorry, Eric.
Oh, at least we have a counterfeit taxi for over there.
Yes.
Um, hopefully anybody watching this finds value in the ways that we discuss things and sort of some of the modeling of language and such. I would highly suggest reaching out to Nicole if you have any other questions about how different things can be phrased, if you're interested in any type of holistic health or relationship coaching. She is absolutely wonderful. And yeah, we're looking for um, opportunities to help people understand where they can improve their life in any number of ways, but not to, single out dating specifically, but your resources are extensive.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and to clarify, relationships falls under the holistic health umbrella, holistic resilience. There are also dating and relationship coaches who are what they do is a little bit different. But yes, that definitely falls under the work that I do as well in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Um,
If they're looking for a dating coach, I have one or two names that I can set
oh
them up with
yeah.
as well. But
Oh yeah, definitely. Actually, if they're looking for dating coaching, there's an amazing program that's starting in a week that's called the 90-day relationship experiment. And if anyone wants information on it, I can the coaches, I know the coaches running it and they're fantastic. I can send that information over.
Excuse me, Mom.
Yes, bud.
Do you think that's
Not right now. We're live on the internet. I'll have to take the pictures another time. Go brush your teeth. I'm gonna tuck you in soon.
well, thank you
Yeah,
for joining
thank you
me.
so much. Thank you so much for inviting me on again.
Of course.
I always enjoy talking with you and staring at
Go
you. I'll stare at you as much as I can.
likewise. This wonderful, just everything.
Love you.
Love you too. Good night.
Right. Good night.
And good night, Facebook.
Good night.
Hmm.